Hi there, it's Catherine from Spa Education Academy. I'm going to present a presentation to you today on academic and assignment writing to help you with your referencing, how to write academically. So let me just share my screen with you. It might look a little bit strange for a moment. There we go. Yes, it does look strange. Yeah. Hopefully now you can see the PowerPoint. So academic assignment writing and referencing. So how does level 4 differentiate from the lower levels? So lower levels may have been your beauty qualification, which usually go up to a kind of level 3. Level 4 is equivalent to the first year of a degree. So it's higher education. So that's where we're at basically. We're studying, management levels, higher education. And because of that, it means that we're going to be looking at writing academically and referencing, backing up, justifying and evidencing our arguments within our work. So I am going to kind of take you through how to format, present, lay out your assignments and how to make them more academic. So what should be included in an assignment? Well, hopefully you're thinking, information, words, yes, but how will you kind of lay out and present that? Well, introduction, main body, conclusion. You don't have to use titles in your work, but normally I'd probably expect to see a title for the introduction and a title for the conclusion. You will always include an introduction and a conclusion in your work. Your introduction, you're going to kind of give me, the reader, an overview of what to expect to read in the assignment. You will receive assignment criteria. So on Edmodo, I will upload the assignment specification, and in that document, it will tell you all of the criteria that you need to cover. Now, when you get the criteria, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to lay out your assignment exactly as it is laid out in the assignment specification that I give. In the same way that when you write your introduction, you do not take the specification and just kind of cut and paste it into your introduction. You basically put into your own words what exactly is within the assignment. In your introduction, you will also define exactly what it is you're talking about. So, for example, if your assignment is about quality, you will say this assignment seeks to evaluate the impact of quality on the spa industry. Quality, as described by Smith and Pusko 2017, is defined as blah, 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 blah. So basically what you will do is you'll be using quotes and sources of information to kind of ground and give a picture and give definitions of exactly the topic that you're writing about. Your main body will be basically all of your work, all of your research, and then your conclusion at the end will be basically just repeating exactly what you found out in your research in the main body of your work. You'll just be summarising exactly all of the information that you've presented. So an introduction includes definitions. So you're going to be quoting other people. Do not list the assignment criteria and give an overview of your work. Now, because you are giving an overview of your work, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to give an overview of your work if you haven't yet written it. So sometimes it is easier to write your introduction when you've actually finished your work. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Conclude your work, and you should be giving a summary of exactly what you found out, exactly what you've said, the main findings in the main body of your work. Again, do not list the assignment criteria. So don't list that this assignment seek to evaluate and then just list exactly what I've asked you to cover. You're just basically putting your conclusion in your own words, giving an overview of the main topics, the main arguments, everything that you kind of found out, giving a summary of that. So again, it's easier to write your conclusion at the end of your work because you won't really know what you've covered until you have covered it. This is how you will format and present your work. So when you're giving your assignment specification, it will include this. So basically all of your assignments are formatted and presented and laid out in exactly the same way. So basically start as you mean to go on. Once you've made your first, and once you've done your first assignment, then you basically just use the same format and same presentation for all of your assignments. And this just means that we have standardization. All of you are writing and presenting your work in exactly the same way. It's also easier for then me, the marker, the reader, to actually look at the content rather than looking at giving you feedback on how you have maybe used the wrong font or the wrong size. So it's really important that you get these small details right first of all. So the font that you'll be using is Calibri. The font size will be 12. Your line spacing will be 1.5. Your margins will be set to normal. So hopefully you won't have to change too many things on your Word documents, because the line spacing and the margins, they're just kind of normal. You will Harvard reference throughout your assignment, and I'll go through that in a little bit more detail for you later on. This just means that when you are using sources of information to make a point or make an argument in your work, you're actually referencing the person that said it. And this also shows me that you've read around the subject, and reading is really important for this qualification. The more you read, the more that you learn. At the end of your work, you will include a reference list. Again, I'll go through this in a little bit more detail later on. You should always include a title page, an introduction, the main body of your work, your conclusion, and then your reference list. Behind your reference list, you may put in some appendix if you like. Again, I will go over appendix in a little bit more detail for you. Page numbers, you can put these in, and you don't have to, but they obviously make it easier to follow, especially with printing. Again, they should be standardized, so bottom of the page, in the middle, text only. Okay, so here's information about your title page. This is your front page of your assignment. Your assignment should be handed in one document. By this I mean, don't have one document which is your title page, and then another document that's your assignment, and then another document that's your reference list. Everything should be in one Word document. So you'll have your title page, which has a larger font. It will be font size 36, and you will write SPA Education Academy, iTech Level 4 Diploma in SPA and Salon Management. You'll put your name, the unit number, and the unit name of the assignment that you're writing. All of this information I'll give you on your assignment specifications. So I'll give you the unit name and the unit number that you need to put on your front sheet. You have a word count of approximately 1,500 words. This is an iTech qualification. iTech do not stipulate exactly how many words that you need to write for your assignment. So I provided this as kind of an approximation for you. You do not have to write 1,500 exactly, and it's kind of expected that you do kind of like 10% under or over, but really I'm not too concerned about the word count. As long as you've met the criteria, covered the criteria. If you're writing less than 1,500 words, then it's probably saying to me that you haven't really researched, you haven't really read, and you probably aren't covering the criteria. If you're writing 5,000, 6,000 words, then maybe you've done a little bit too much detail, a little bit too much reading. That we are only doing a level 4 qualification. This is not a PhD. You're not writing a thesis. But yeah, if you kind of hang around the kind of 1,500 as like a minimum word count. One thing that I do really recommend is that you get a friend, family member, colleague, peer to proofread your work. Find this friend, this critical friend who can proofread your work and give you feedback, okay? Sometimes we read our own work and it completely makes sense to us, but actually when somebody else reads it, there's maybe spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, maybe something doesn't really make sense. So your proofreader doesn't have to be, somebody that's experienced in the SPA world. They don't have to be, an English professor. But it is really useful if you can just pass your assignment by somebody and they can just proofread it for you to make sure that it makes sense and it's grammatically and written well within English. Thesaurus is a really useful tool, and you should have Thesaurus on the tab bar of your computer, laptop, on Word. Thesaurus will give you other words that you can use. So, for example, if you haven't written an assignment for a long time, you might be a little bit rusty. and you might end up kind of using and repeating the same words. What a thesaurus will do is it will help you to widen your vocabulary. A dictionary, in the same way, is going to help you to, if you see a new word in a book, if you see a new word in a journal article or something that's quite academic that I've given you to read and you don't understand it, look it up. Let's see this as a learning experience, and let's widen our vocabulary so that when we write, and also when we start to articulate ourselves, when we're speaking, maybe debating things, you know, the more that you read, the more that you learn, and the more that you'll find that you're using that within your writing and also within conversations that you have with people. You can put titles in your work if you think that it adds to your work. When I give the assignment criteria, I don't expect you to title each section. Really, I would only expect to see a title for the introduction and the conclusion, unless you really feel that you need to put in titles. So, for example, if you were doing your spa design assignment and there's kind of like specific sections, then you can put titles in. But if you're titling, you know, every single paragraph, I'd probably be giving you feedback on that and saying, look, you do not need to title, you do not need to use titles in your work, in the same way that you do not need to use a contents page. Okay, our assignments range from like 1,500 words, and for such a kind of like small document, you don't really need to have a contents page. When you hand in your assignments, when you submit them, I will give you the specific date that you need to hand them in by, and you will email them to me at aspireeducationacademy@outlook.com. When you email them, you should title the email with exactly what it is that you are emailing. And inside of the email, you will say, "Dear Catherine, please find attached a draft of the quality assignment for your feedback. Kind regards," whatever. This way we can track our conversations, we can track which assignments that you have and haven't received, and it's just easier to communicate in this way. It's professional. So you will email me, and I will have a look at that assignment, and I will give you feedback on that assignment. You need to send me it all in one Word document. So, for example, if you're using OneDrive or Google Drive, don't give me the link to that. You need to actually download the attachment and actually attach that document, one Word document, and that's how you're handing your assignment to me. I will then mark that assignment by using track changes and comments. So I will go into that document, I will put comments on it, and then I will email back that document to you. So that document will have all sorts of kind of amendments, it will have comments on it, it will have changes where I've changed words. And then what you need to do is obviously take on that feedback. You do not hand in me the same document with all of the notes and comments that I've written on it. They're just for you to see. So what you would need to do is, you know, change them, take them out, whatever you need to do. But when you hand in your final assignment, it shouldn't have any resonance of any of the comments or track changes or feedback that I've given you. Please see me as your critical friend, which means that I'm, you know, critiquing your work, I'm giving you feedback on your work, but in a positive way. So obviously when I'm reading your work, sometimes it may feel like, you know, I'm giving you negative feedback. But actually what I'm trying to do is help you to improve, give you like a challenge. It doesn't matter how well you write. I will always be giving you feedback on areas to improve, because obviously throughout this qualification, you want to be stretched, you want to be challenged. So yeah, please don't be offended by all of my feedback. And what you'll probably find is, when you hand in your first draft compared to when you hand in your 7th draft assignment, there will be a lot less feedback on your last assignment than there was on your first one. On your first assignment, you may be getting lots of feedback because, you know, we're just getting used to writing and laying out the assignment and Harvard referencing. So yes, you probably will get a lot of feedback. You hand in a draft, I'll give you feedback on your draft. You get a kind of 2 weeks to be able to make amendments on that draft, and then you hand in your final copy. Read to succeed. So read. This is really important. If you are just using your own knowledge that you had before you started the course and you're writing your assignments with what you already knew, then you're really not learning anything at all. You're just literally learning how to write an assignment. But what you want to do is be widening your knowledge, and you'll only do that by reading. You obviously have one session with me approximately per month. So there's only so much content that will be delivered and that will actually be retained by you from that one session. We do not cover all of the criteria in the virtual classroom sessions. That's why you have all of the resources and readings on Edmodo, but that is not exhaustive. There is, so much more information out there for you to read. So yeah, buy some books, have a look at all of the resources on Edmodo, download the magazines, keep up to date with what's happening on social media, and read to succeed. So why do we reference? Why is it an important part of higher level learning and pedagogy? Why do we do this? Well, it is really important to reference because otherwise it's plagiarism, and this is an academic offence. Referencing is a way of acknowledging the sources of information. If you're not referencing, then basically you're saying it's your own ideas, and that is not ethical. And we do have ethics, especially in higher education. We talk a lot about ethics. You need to inform your reader, which is me, the sources that you've used, and then that means that I can find out where you've got that information if I need to. It also shows me where you're basing your arguments. By an argument, I don't mean that you'll be kind of arguing in your work, but what you'll be doing is forming stories that almost flow within each other. So you'll say, for example, Bailey et al. States that the spa industry is growing. However, Cohen and Bodecker state that the only reason that the spa industry is growing is because of. Can you see how that's a point? Can you see how that's like an argument showing different sides of the story? And what we try to do in higher education is to be kind of unbiased, take all of the information that's out there, write about it. We're not really writing about our own opinions. We're taking sources of information and we are putting those into our assignments. If we have a point to make, then what you would do is use information, use referencing to back up and justify the points or arguments that you're trying to make in your work. You do need to reference any work or ideas that are not your own, otherwise it is plagiarising, and that is an academic offence. And basically, if you are really doing this on a wider scale, you'll just be removed from the course. By referencing, it demonstrates your wider reading. So it really shows me that, wow, yes, you've been reading around the topic. It's fantastic to see that you've been using lots of different books, lots of different journal articles, lots of different magazines in your reading. It just makes it look a lot more credible. By referencing, it will reinforce your own arguments. So by this, I mean, if you've got a point to make, in academic high-level writing, you can't just say the global spa industry has grown. And that's your point. You have to say the global spa industry has grown. The Global Wellness Institute in 2018 stated that the global spa industry is growing at 6% rate per year. So can you see how that reinforced my point? I was using statistics, I was using sources of information to back up, justify, and reinforce my argument or my point. Try and use high quality sources. So you often hear me talk about the Global Wellness Institute. They are high quality, all of the resources that I've given you as well. Cite them right. This I will share with you on Edmodo. It's a referencing guide. It's a PDF document. It's like a little booklet. You can print it off if you like. However, you probably won't use all of it. Cite them right shows you how to reference anything, because you can reference anything. You could reference a piece of art on the wall. You can reference the Bible. You can reference the dictionary. You can reference a YouTube clip, something from the TV, something from one of my lectures, something that I've given you on Edmodo, a book, a magazine, anything at all you can reference. And if you would like to know how to, then Cite Them Right is a really great resource to do this from. If you're ever stuck, just download Cite Them Right and it will show you exactly how to reference whatever it is that you're trying to reference. In the most part, you'll probably be referencing websites and magazines and books. But you are expected to reference everything. whether or not it's a direct quote or a paraphrase. So we will have a look at what is a direct quote and what is a paraphrase. You could be referencing anything, like I say, a book, article, web page, picture, film, blog, absolutely anything at all. But what you need to do is always reference from reputable sources. The more recent that they are, the better. So if something is from 2018, well, obviously that's really recent, so it's up to date. If you're referencing something that's from 1941 and it's talking about the spa industry, then it's probably not very relevant or recent. It doesn't mean to say that you can't reference things that are from years ago. It just means that, you know, if it is more up to date, then it's more relevant. You can reference from websites. Try and reference from ones that are reputable. So the Global Wellness Institute, iSpa, you know, any spa beauty magazine, they're reputable. Articles. What we have is we have magazine articles, which you've probably always read, but then we also have articles which are academic. They're written by scholarly professors, people who are qualified doctors, PhD, they've got their masters. What happens is they'll write an academic document, which are formatted in a specific way, using specific terminology, and they will be peer reviewed, which means that other academics will look at them and say whether or not they should be published in, the article should be published in a journal. Now, I will share some articles with you, and like I say, these are written in an academic way. The more articles that you read and that you research from and read, the more that it will help you with writing academically as well. In the top right-hand corner, you can see here Google Scholar. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but if you just type into Google Scholar, then basically in Google Scholar, it will give you academic journal articles. Yeah, so anything that is written by an academic, anything that's written by a scholar, anything that's been peer reviewed, any article that has been published in a journal will be in Google Scholar. It doesn't always mean that you can actually access it. Some articles actually cost money to access. That's why, you know, when you do study at university, it does cost a lot of money because the universities need to pay to get access to all of these sources of information. But Google Scholar, you may be able to get into some of them. If it's just that you can read the abstract, which is almost like, you know, just an overview of what it's about, sometimes you can get all the information you need just from the abstract. Sorry, it just keeps on jumping there. Wikipedia, you've probably used and probably aware and familiar with Wikipedia. However, you should not be referencing Wikipedia. It's not a reputable source. And the reason that it's not reputable and it's not liked in academia and higher level education is because anybody can write on Wikipedia. Anybody could log in and change and write on Wikipedia. So yes, you should not be referencing Wikipedia. I mean, feel free to read it and use it as like a source of information, but you should not be referencing from Wikipedia. It's not a reputable source. When you are referencing, you will use the surname and date. Okay, so for example, Smith 2017, I could say Smith 2017 stated that the spa industry is, or I would maybe say a sentence such as the spa industry has grown exponentially. And then at the end of the sentence, Smith 2017. So basically the name of the game is, as long as you put the author's surname and the date in your reference, then you're winning, basically. Surname and date. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you put in the person's first name? No, just the surname and date. Do you put in the person's first initial? No, just the surname and the date. Okay, so this is in the main body of your work. But you can't just leave it at that. I need to actually know, and you need to be able to look back and think, well, where did I read this? Smith 2017, what? What was the name of the book? What was the name of the article? What was the name of the website? Okay, and that's where at the end of your work, you'll provide a reference list, and that's where you'll put all of the information out about the book, website, article, whatever it is. But within the main body of your text, you will just use the surname and date. If you cannot find the name of the author, then you may write no name. But however, if you know that the website that you're in is called Professional Beauty, but you just don't know the author, you would just write Professional Beauty 2007. Okay. So in high levels, you need to read widely and understand the ideas of other people. That's how you will learn. You will learn to interpret, discuss, and incorporate this into your work. Referencing is a way of proving you have done this and of indicating the ideas that are yours and those that belong to others. Not referencing correctly is effectively misappropriating the ideas of others. Referencing enables you and your readers to trace useful material again and will make your work look more scholarly. In the most part, referencing is about including the surname of the author and the year of the date of publication. So what is our direct quote? Directly quoting is when you use quotation marks, okay? So you will put the quote exactly as it has written, the exact words, and you'll put quotation marks there. Now, sometimes this means that it doesn't really flow very well in your sentence. So another option is to paraphrase. Paraphrase is putting the ideas of others into your own words, okay? So you will paraphrase and use the author's surname and the date in exactly the same way. If you directly quote, you will use the author's surname and date in exactly the same way. The only difference between directly quoting and paraphrasing is that in a direct quote, you use quotation marks, but when a paraphrase, you do not need to use quotation marks. You still put the idea of the person into your work, but you can change the words around slightly. As long as you're not exactly changing what they were trying to say, but you can change the way that it fits into your sentence. By paraphrasing, it means that your work is going to flow better. It means that the quote that you're putting in there, the reference that you're kind of citing in your work is going to make more sense. It means that you don't have to put in a big, large quote and then contextualize it to your work, which means that when you put in a quote, then it means that you need to tell me, what does this mean to your work? Whereas when you paraphrase, it means that it flows better. It shows me that you understand the quote and you can actually apply it or contextualize it to your work. Here are some examples. So the first one is citing a direct quote. Bowell and Kemp 2010 state that, and here we go, here are the quotation marks, the distinction between arguments and explanations is important, but it's not always easy to make. Okay, so now let's have a look at a paraphrase. Bowell and Kemp 2010 emphasise the importance of the distinction between an argument and explanation, both of which could be misinterpreted by the reader if not utilised properly. Can you see how the second example doesn't use any quotation marks and it flows better within the sentence? Another example, instead of starting the sentence with Bowell and Kemp state that, you can put, it is imperative to maintain a distinction between argument and explanation, and then in brackets at the end, you can say Bower and Kemp 2000. Okay, so are long quotations preferred? Do you think that it will be good in your assignment to put in a big paragraph which you have quoted and you put quotation mark there in directly quoting it? No. Direct quotes should be avoided. Long quotations should be avoided, okay? They kind of show me that you can't put it into your own words. Maybe you don't understand it. You know, why do you need a long quote to kind of give the point that you're trying to make? You should be able to, you know, kind of paraphrase it and put it into your own words. So yes, avoid long quotations. Which one of the following is academic writing? Okay, so let's have a read of these. Which do you think sounds more academic? Number one. Number two. Or number three. Hopefully, you've chosen number one. Number one, moreover, Jones and Smith 2009 argue that the spa industry has its roots in Europe and includes the use of water in its therapies. Okay, so that does sound very academic, basically. It's using a quote to back up and argue a point, and it is correctly referenced. Number two, I think that spas always have pools and jacuzzis in them. Okay, so first of all, I is not used in academic writing. We write in the third person, okay? So you do not write I, me, we, us. You would say something like spas often have pools and jacuzzis in them, instead of I think that spas always have pools and jacuzzis in them. Another thing that's wrong with this is that it says jacuzzis. Now, jacuzzi is actually a brand, like Hoover is a brand of vacuum cleaner. Jacuzzi is a brand of hot tub. So unless the hot tub is actually from the brand jacuzzi, it should actually be called a hot tub or whirlpool. All of the spas I have worked in provided treatments, mostly consisting of massage. So again, it says I have worked in. We avoid the use of I, we, me. We write in the third person. Number three, many of the best spas evolved from Europe. Okay, so we need to back up this point, that there's no reference here to back this up. They have amazing natural springs. Well, that's very descriptive. Okay, we avoid being descriptive in academic writing. And the water is warm and the natural muds can be slathered all over your body, which is a lovely experience. Well, slathered isn't really a very kind of academic or good terminology to use. And lovely is a little bit too expressive. We're actually quite kind of removed from the work. We're unbiased. We're more factual when you write academically. So academic writing, academic English writing is usually formal and quite impersonal. It avoids won't, it doesn't. You would say would not, does not, it is. Avoid using linking words at the beginning of a sentence. So don't start a sentence with and, but, also. Avoid using personal pronouns such as I, me, you, your. Like I say, write in the third person. Avoid rhetorical questions. So avoid asking questions in your work. You shouldn't be asking questions, you should be answering them, basically. So you should be saying things like, so what is the history of wellness? You don't need to ask rhetorical questions. You should be backing up, justifying and evidencing your points and arguments with citing and referencing sources of information from wider reading of books and articles. Academic writing is not descriptive or the author's personal opinion. Instead, it is factual and evidence-based. So although you have your experience, although you have your opinions, that is not what your academic writing is about. Unless you've actually done some primary research, then you can analyse that. But in the most part, you should be using secondary research, which is books, journal articles, magazines, resources that I've given you. That's your secondary research. And you should be using that to back up evidence and justify arguments and points that you're trying to make. Try and use facts to make your opinions stand out and be reputable. Academic writing tends to employ a cautious way of explaining things. So instead of saying, it is, the industry is growing, you could say, it could be argued that the industry is growing. Could, would, should, those kinds of words. Unless you can actually back up and justify the point that you're saying with some sources of information. So you could say, Krebin-Bailey et al. Point out that, and then it's actually from them. Remain objective in your work, so remain unbiased. Try not to kind of force a point that you particularly think, unless it is backed up and evidence and justified through reading and research and referencing and citing in your work. So here's an example of a paragraph I'd like you to read and have a little critique of. Have a read of this. Okay, so what's wrong in this paragraph? It starts off well. This assignment seeks to explain the spa industry's vast growth. Okay, but really you need to back up that vast growth. You need to give an example of a quote of the vast growth. A statistic would be really good in there. How has the spa industry survived through the recent economic downturn? That's asking a rhetorical question. You should avoid asking rhetorical questions in your work. The next sentence starts with an and like I say, we should avoid starting a sentence with and, but, or also. You can also see in this sentence that it says spas. Spas has a capital S, and then in the last sentence we have the word spa, but it hasn't got a capital S. What we need to be is consistent. So you either use all of the words with a capital S or all of the word spa with no capitals. We all know that spas today are ever so popular. Well, we avoid the word we, I, me in your work, and using things such as ever so popular is a very kind of descriptive and personal. Everyone loves to visit the spa for a pamper and relax. Again, we avoid using terms like that. Okay, here's another paragraph. Have a read of this and let me know what you think. Okay, so that was the same paragraph as before, just kind of written in a more academic way. It's backed up, justified with evidence. It uses statistics, and it's written in an academic way, using academic terminology. So hopefully that's shown you some examples of the kind of expectations that you want to be working towards. And obviously, I know that you are going to be starting at a certain point, and you may need feedback and assistance to help you to progress and write more academically. So don't see this as like a really scary thing to do, but you do need to try as hard as you can and use all of the information and resources that I'm giving you to be able to reference Harvard reference correctly. So I've asked you to provide a reference list at the end of your assignment, but you may be more familiar with the bibliography. So what's the difference? What's the difference between a bibliography and a reference list? Well, a reference list gives the full details of all of the references that you have cited in your work, whereas a bibliography uses a list of sources that you used in your research, but what you did not reference, and full details of all the references. So a bibliography is everybody that you have cited and referenced in your work, and all of the books you read, but that you didn't cite a reference in your work. What I really need is the reference list. I really need to know just who you have referenced in your work. It's up to you if you want to include a reference list or bibliography, but the minimum that I need is a reference list. All of the details of everything you have referenced and cited in the main body of your work should be in your reference list. With your reference list, you should start as you mean to go on. Don't think, oh, I don't know how to reference, and I'll go back to it later and I'll put the details in. By the time you do that, you'll have lost the website, you don't know where the book is, you don't know what page you got it from, you don't know the author. So if you pick up a book to read it, put it straight into the reference list before you've even made a quote or a citation. The same with the website. If you're looking at a website, straight away, copy, paste that link and put it into the reference list. Start as you mean to go on. Here is an example of a reference list. So you'll put the title reference list. The first example is from a book, and the second one is from a website. So the first one you can see we've got Blackster L, Hughes C, and Tite M. So we haven't got the person's first name. We start with their surname and we just put their initial. We use a full stop and a comma. And If there are more than one, then you can put the word and. The date will always go in brackets after the author's names. Then you'll put the name of the book and you can put that in italics. It may be a third edition. It may not have any edition, so you don't need to put that in. Then you will put the where it was printed. It could be New York. It could be Maidenhead. And then the last thing you'll write is who actually printed it. So, you know, just try your best. This one is Open University Press. It may be Thompson. It may be Elsevier. It might be City and Guilds. You know, whoever was the printer that you can find on there. Just try your best. The second example, like I say, is from a website, and it was from the Professional Beauty website. It's from 2014, because actually on the website it said that it was written in 2014. The title of the website page was Brand Building and Business Success Led Discussion at Spa Life UK. And then because it's a link, you just take the URL, pop that in and just say available at ... And then at the end, in brackets, you'll put the date that you accessed it. So I accessed this in the 3rd of July 2017, even though it was actually written in 2014. What I recommend you do is write these down, take a picture of this page, whatever you need to do, and just use these two as your examples. What I would normally do in my assignment is write reference list as the title, and then put these two in, and then you can basically copy these. So if you get another book, you can then look exactly how this book was referenced. If you use a website, then you can use this one. Once you've actually finished your references, then obviously, you know, just delete these out. But these are probably what I'm expecting you to use mostly. I'm going to give you an activity where I'm going to ask you to reference a book. Make a reference list for a book, make a reference list example for a website. And I'm also going to ask you to do a paraphrase. So that's an activity that I'll get you to do on Edmodo. Once you've watched this video, I'd like you to give that a go. So practice is key. Practice doing your reference list, practice referencing. And the way that I'd like you to do this is, like I say, on Edmodo, and then I can give you feedback, and I can support and help you, and you can help and support each other as a team as well. If you're confused by any of this or anything that's in any of the lessons, I would hope sometimes that you would be confused and you would be thinking, okay, I really want to know more about that. I really want to know more information. Read around the subject. If you're confused about Harvard referencing, read all of the websites. There are many books all on Harvard referencing. If you want to know anything about business, again, you can Google this. You can get books on business. Read is the key. And being an independent learner and using your research skills will assist you. Et al. If you have a book which has more than 3 authors in it, and you're finding that when you're writing your assignment, you have to put Smith, Puszko, and Melanie, 2017, it's just too many authors to keep on writing in your assignment. So if you have more than 3 authors, you can write the word et al. Okay, so have a look at the top here. Abbreviation for et alia is the Latin phrase. It means and others. So if you have more than 3 authors, you can use the word et al. You must put it in italics, but in the reference list at the end of your work, you must put all of the authors in. But in the text of your assignment, you only need to use the first author's surname and then write et al. Here's the example below. So instead of writing Herman, Gladstone, Eaton, and Blackstone 2013 stated that, you can instead just say Herman et al. 2013 stated that. So you can see it's much easier to write with et al. In the main body of your work. Another tip for you is about using abbreviations. If you are using abbreviation in your work, the first time that you use it in an assignment, you must put the whole word or the whole Spa Education Academy, and then in brackets SEA. Once you've done that once in your assignment, then for the rest of the assignment, you only need to use SEA. So, for example, if you're writing your public relations assignment, the first time that you write the word public relations, excuse me, you put public relations and then in brackets PR, and that means that for the rest of your assignment, you may just write PR. These are some academic phrases and words. So I'll be sharing these on Edmodo for you. They'll help you with, widening your vocabulary. There's words that can help you to start a sentence, to link sentences together. So, for example, hence, respectively, consequently, thus, therefore. And after a while of using these words, they will start to come to you naturally. You might even start using them in your everyday speech and start debating with friends, and they'll be thinking, wow, where'd she get all these words from? Because you've been using your academic phrases and words. Often when I write an assignment, I will have these printed out next to me and just use them. It just helps you to make your work flow and sound academic. So what is an appendix? I did mention an appendix earlier. An appendix is where you put additional supporting evidence, for example, a mood board, a picture, a photo, a questionnaire, basically anything that you think shouldn't really be in the main body of your work because it just kind of doesn't make your work flow. The picture's maybe too big, or maybe the chart just doesn't look right there. So what you can do in the main body of your work is just state, please see Appendix 1. And then if you have another picture, please see Appendix 2. Now, in the same sentence, if you are going to be putting in pictures of things, again, they need to be referenced. Wider reading, like I've said before, read is very important. Throughout your course, you will be referred to supporting readings, and these should be treated as such, supported. They serve to provide you with some initial understanding of the subject and the theories discussed within them, yet by no means should they be understood as exhaustive and sufficient. You are encouraged to engage with your own independent research, both in the view of the taught input and the required assignments. So basically, I'm going to give you reading, I'm going to give you content in our virtual classroom sessions, but that is, that's not exhaustive. There's so much more that you can access and that you can read. And I encourage you to do that. I will support you through all of this, but what I need to see is that you're putting in the effort. If you're putting in the effort, I will put in double the effort. If I see that you need help, but you've put in effort, I will help you. However, if I feel like maybe you're just asking me to kind of drip feed you, this is a level 4, this is a management course, this is higher education, expected to be an independent, professional adult learner. So, put in the effort and I will support you so much. I will offer you, virtual mentorship sessions. I will, you can email me. I can tell you when I'm at my desk so that you can contact me. We can do one-to-ones, we can do group sessions, whatever it is that's going to help you. What I'd like you to do is to be using Edmodo as our sharing of resources. I'd like you to share resources on there, not just me as well. We can ask questions, we can support each other as a group. If you would also like to use Google Hangouts as well, we can use that as like group text. If Google Hangouts and Edmodo aren't really working out, then we can look at using WhatsApp or something like that. Hopefully we'll get by with using Edmodo and Google Hangouts for now. I do thank you for your time. This is how you can contact me, as you probably already know. Let me just end this. If you've got any more questions about any of this, then please do feel free to get in touch with me at any time. But like I say, I will be putting resources onto Edmodo that you can access, that you can read, and really you should be reading all of those resources. Obviously, you only see me once a month. The rest of the time you should be reading, doing your own research, and obviously soon you will have assignments to do as well. So thank you for being patient. We now have everybody in our group. So you'll be starting to get a lot more information from me on Edmodo, and I'd like to see you all liking all of my posts that I put onto Edmodo and interacting with them as well, letting me know how you're getting on with all of the readings. And I look forward to our next session, which will be on quality, and you will get your first assignment then as well. But I'll be giving you more activities and more readings to do in the meantime. So yeah, thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you all very soon. Let me share this with you. Okay, so thank you, and I will say goodbye.